Okay, so just before the start of class here, I wanted to run through a few simple little tutorials that are going to help finish your projects as well as consolidate the project so that you can get everything wrapped up and it can be re-rendered as an animated file on our local machines here in the architecture building. So first thing, there have been a few people ask about creating custom texture maps, in particular from the art assets that we're picking up. So I wanted to run through that really quickly. So let's apply a custom texture map that will just be a JPEG off of my hard drive to an object. Okay, so the easiest way to do that is to start by thinking about just using one of the standard primitives inside of Twin. So I'm just going to start with my 1 meter box, and let's level that out since it's snapping to the ground there. So I'm just going to go to my box right here. Scene stats are not scene states, but statistics are what's going to be showing up by default. Here we want to change that to transform. And in particular, we're really only interested in rotation, just setting that back to 0 and 0 since it came in sort of at a wacky angle. Okay, so if you notice right here, the default transform is set to move. I want to change that to scale, and I'm just going to make that more of an image size thing, right? A floating canvas, if you will. So this is what we're going to start with in terms of redefining that as a material with a custom image on it. And there are super complicated ways to do this with reflections and with bump maps, normal maps, all that stuff. We're going to just keep it simple for this one, and we can get more advanced as we move along. Let's move over to the bright, shiny side here. So I'm going to start by using the material picker and selecting my material right here. And there we go. And that's going to open up just ML base. So that's just my base standard color. So first thing I want to do is rename this. And I'm just going to rename this to tractor image because it's an image I've been having fun with of my tractor. Okay, so from there, we are simply going to overwrite the color, right? So our color, this is our base color, right? So anywhere I shift that, it's going to shift the overall image. So as long as I want to stay true to the overall image, I do not want to adjust the color at all. I want to go down to more, and I want to overwrite this texture file. So I'm going to go to open, and then scroll down, find my tractor, and say open. Now, I haven't found a really good way to snap these images into the overall frame. In other words, match the image to the object. So that's something typically I just do manually. So to do that, I need to go back to my tractor image and adjust its scale. So I'm just dropping that scale down. And then the next thing that I can begin to do, if I go to more and axis, I can also adjust its position. So that's going to roll the image laterally. This is going to roll the image vertically. And you can see it's pretty darn touchy. So let's just go like a 0.1, a 0. Let's bump it up just a bit, 0.05, 0.025. There we go. And so we're starting to see there's still just a little bit of a seam here at the bottom. And so the other thing that I can obviously do with that is select my object. Let's go back to my tractor image, and let's select my object and go to scale. And I can simply change the scale of that object. If you notice, it's changing the scale of the image as well. And also, if you'll notice, it is putting that image on all sides as well, right? So I might want to make that a little bit thinner, and I could certainly do this as a single plane. But for the most part, what I found is, I can get those things in and get them working pretty quickly. I'll usually oversize just a bit so that it is not cropping. I'll go to my axis. And this is where it'd be really nice if it wasn't quite so sensitive in terms of how much it's moving. But let's just see if I can't get that nudged just exactly where I want it here really quickly. And the last thing that I can do with this is I can also stretch on my y-axis, right? So that's repeating and expanding just to kind of get those things coming together in a way that's pretty quick, pretty easy. So now I have a floating tractor image. So we would do the same thing with our artist's artwork that we're bringing into these worlds that we're designing. Okay, so pretty simple, pretty simple. We want to stay true as we can to the original compositions of the artwork. So at times that might even take a little bit of measuring and a little bit of work to make sure that things are looking correct. But so work through those things just as best as you can, right? So the next thing that we need to be able to do is export these scenes. Now, it's a little bit more complicated than going File, Save As, and simply saving our .tm file, our Twinmotion file. Because if we have additional objects that are linked in, if we have texture maps not unlike this one, that are outside of the standard Twinmotion files, then we need to actually consolidate those into a single folder. Okay, so to do that, these three little bars right down here under Tools, there is a tool called Resource Collector. So if I launch Resource Collector, you can see it's asking for a path. So I'm simply going to go open, and let's create a brand new folder on my desktop. And this is going to be TM Scene Test. Okay, so I'm going to select that as my destination folder. I want to grab the TM file, right? So that's my Twinmotion file. And then I don't really need a substitution table. That is, if I'm going to replace this with that. I don't really need unused materials. That would be options that aren't active in the scene. And I really don't care if it's zipped. I mean, I can put this all into a single compressed folder. That's just more trouble than it's worth to me. I mean, hard drive space is pretty inexpensive right now in terms of the resource hit. So I'm not going to worry about putting this all into a zip file either. I just want to hit the collect button. Now, my scene was super simple. These larger scenes that you have, you could expect that to take up to, I don't know, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that if you have a lot going on. But if we go now to the desktop where I saved that, that is going to be TM Scene Test, Maps, and I should see my International Tractor JPEG image saved there. So that if I send this Detail Scene Test 1 across to anybody, as long as I include this Maps folder with it, this scene is going to pull only standard 2022.2 details with it, right? So I don't need any other maps other than this one, which is an external map. So all the external maps, it's going to, or external models too, I believe, it's going to save all of those to this location. And if it doesn't save external links to models, it's simply because all those models are saved into your TM file as well. I've never really tested a lot with this, but that is the primary point of that tool. So both of those are set up and ready for you to use to consolidate your scenes and create new custom image maps. Best of luck in wrapping up all this work. Cheers all.